What if you had stayed on your path? What if you had done the thing you wanted to do in that moment? What would have happened? What ceiling would have fallen in?
Mm-hmm.
And not asking rhetorically, like,
Right.
don't be ridiculous, you can be yourself and
Right.
nothing's gonna happen to you. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying really give those irrational fears their time. Write it out, say it out loud. And I find that in doing that, you expose it to the atmosphere and it starts to erode somehow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I swear to God, it's like magic. I guarantee you, absolutely 100%, you are gonna get free of these things. There's something about just writing out or saying out loud those irrational fears. It somehow can't live in the same state after that. It just starts eroding. So let's say you're gonna do the opposite. You're like, okay, I'm not going to be afraid that none of these things are gonna happen for me. I'm going to trust that things are gonna work out. And frankly, as we get older, we should be even more trusting because we have more evidence, more things to point
Right.
to. Say, oh, I thought that was gonna be a disaster, but it worked out fine. It's really helpful to have some sort of spiritual something. Whether it can be God for you or the universe or the fucking sun, whatever. To just go, I'm going to be taken care of. It's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I don't have to be living in this fear that these things aren't going to happen for me ever. Or just trusting that things work out. Things work out. Just look at some parts of your life moments in your life where you thought that was going to be a disaster and maybe it was a disaster, but then something came out instead.
Sure.
Or that disaster you thought would happen never happened at all. And you spent 3 months prior to that, just like giving yourself an ulcer.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. Because you know she knows a thing or two. And now she's gonna break down. It's a breakdown. She's gonna break it down.
Mayim Bialik's breakdown is supported by Rabbit Air. I'm one of those people who, if I do not monitor the allergy situation in the home for me and my children, it will be a disaster. Getting a Rabbit Air purifier was a complete game changer, not just for me, but for my kids who used to wake up sneezing and coughing and congested. These things actually make a huge difference. I especially love Rabbit Air. They have all these design options. This is the sleek white one, as you can see. Rabbit Air has award-winning air purifiers. They feature advanced 6-stage HEPA filtration that traps micron-sized particles, such as PM 2.5, pollen, pet dander, and dust to help keep your air clean. This air purifier is highly customizable with interchangeable faceplate designs, a wall mount, a floor stand, and 4 custom filtration options like germ defense filter, very important during flu season, or toxin absorber for VOCs. Smart sensing technology detects particle, odor, and light levels and automatically optimizes the unit's operation. Visit rabbitair.com or call them 24/7 to talk to Rabbit Air consultants. That's RABBITAIR.com. Hi, I'm Mayim Bialik, and welcome to my breakdown. This is the place where we break things down so you don't have to. Today, we're going to be breaking down Justine Bateman and Face. Justine Bateman is a writer, a director, a producer, and a very accomplished author. And her best-selling first book, Fame, was an incredible exploration about kind of society's need for an understanding of really what fame means to us and what it means to the people it happens to. And her second book, also a bestseller, was published just a few years ago. And we're going to talk all about it. Jonathan is not here, and he's very disappointed that I'm flying solo for this one. But it's really such a pleasure. We've spoken before, but a pleasure to interact in person. Welcome, Justine Bateman, to the breakdown. Break it down. Hi. I didn't wear makeup today, and I woke up, and often I don't wear makeup to podcasts, but lately I've been trying to make more of an effort. And I thought, of all days, I'm not gonna wear makeup today. And I think Valerie, we both decided to go naked face today. And I have lipstick in my pocket because I was like, maybe I just need a little something. But I think that's actually a really cool place to start, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Your premise, your existence as a writer in particular of Face, which also has an awesome cover. The notion is not that women should not adorn themselves. That's not what the prescription of the book is about. Can you describe why this book?
Sure. Well, the genesis of it was while I was writing Fame, which you generously spoke to me about. You were one of the people I interviewed for that book. I did a Google search of my name, and the autocomplete was looks old. And so I'm 57 now, and I was early 40s something. So my face really hadn't started changing yet. And I was just like, wait, what? So like an idiot, I clicked on that. And it was this, anyway, suffice to say, it was a really bad rabbit hole, and it really I couldn't understand what they were talking about, because it sounded arrogant, but I couldn't see what they meant. Even the photos they had as evidence, I was like, I think I look fine there. I mean, I just didn't get what they meant, but there were so many of them and so few of me that I made them right and me wrong, which was really, really a bad mistake, because that stuck with me for a really long time. And whenever something kind of throws me off track, I have to journal about it and get at the root fear for me. What's the irrational fear behind that? And so I had to do that with that issue. And then once I was on the other side of it, I went, wow, let's look at this topic generally speaking, like in our society, like all these, and society isn't something outside of us. It's all of us together, and sort of everything we've sort of agreed upon, right? Saying hello at the beginning of the conversation and goodbye at the end, stuff like that. Stopping at red lights. I mean, there's nothing physically keeping us from, and laws help to hedge all that in. And wow. So it's like, what is it about in society where we've agreed that a woman's face is broken and has to be fixed? I was like, where'd that come from? What irrational fear is that handling? And anyway, so the book goes into, I interviewed, people for that too. And so it's based on my experiences and those of like 20 people I spoke to. Kind of some of the root reasons, like some of the places where it would be, where the idea would be birthed in, because it's not, you're not born thinking that. And so it's just about, why would one decide that I am unacceptable in any way? Your body, your thoughts, your face, whatever, right? And getting at the root fear that that in adopting that belief, what root fear are you calming, right? So no, makeup to me doesn't fall. I mean, unless it's like, oh my God, I must have this armor, otherwise I won't be accepted. But makeup as an expression of your personality, or your clothing, or your hairstyle, or your hair color, your haircut, or to me, that's like, go. Like, please make, it's great to have to see how someone feels about life, or what their personality is, or whatever, on the outside like that. It's great to see that displayed. But I'm talking about the criticism of, your face.
The introduction, to this book, really starts in a startling place, in that you talk about, some of your favorite images of women were women who had, we used to call it character, they had character in their face. And you also mention a bit about like a European sensibility, and the notion that, also our perception of beauty, and especially of women's beauty in the West, and in this part of the West, in the United States, is very different than other Western cultures. So, I remember when I was a kid, when I first went to Europe, like women didn't shave their underarms or their legs. And it wasn't like a big deal. It was not like a thing. And when you would watch foreign films, you would often see that. And that has now completely shifted. And, there's really nowhere left in Europe, I think, where that happens. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, the cynic in me, meaning the person that doesn't feel ready to step into what I believe you so beautifully illustrate. Like the fear in me is like, well, that's easy for you to say, right? Or I think that's what a lot of people might say. And I don't mean you specifically, but like, that's something for other people to think. Like, I can't get there. Like when you mention, having wrinkles on your cleavage.
Yeah.
Like when that happened to me, like I wanted to crawl under a rock. I wanted to crawl under a rock. Like it was so significant for me
Yeah.
in a negative way.
Huh.
So I'm curious, do you have
I'm only laughing because I like I said in the book, like I
Yeah.
think it looks really cool.
Okay,
so when
I don't understand. So tell me, where do you think this comes from? Like, were your parents super cool and they were like,
No.
this? Well, I don't know. They must have been cool. No, they were not cool.
No, no.
But you and your brother also were both very like talented, creative, artistic, intelligent people. So like,
who knows
something was
where the
going on.
giftings of God
Well,
comes
okay,
from?
fine. Tell me, so this didn't come from like any family messaging?
No, there was no family messaging. But also like, okay, I was born in 1966.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a kid in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a teenager in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Like plastic surgery, like where it wasn't like
Right.
I mean, maybe we'd heard of like one person who got plastic surgery when they're like old, and it was something like,
You're obviously not Jewish. Every 16-year-old girl would get a nose job where I come from.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, I had, I had
and
friends
they didn't do them well. Now they do them so great you can't tell.
I had friends that seemed like a little bit of a rite of passage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I went to school at in Woodland Hills, like I had a lot of
Yes.
Jewish friends, and
We congregate
in fact, for live in Tarzana and Encino and stuff.
Uh-huh.
In fact, when I hear what percentage of the nation is Jewish, I'm like, that's not right. Because I went to school with so many.
We're 2% of the U.S. population. Yes.
To me, it's like 40%, right? Because I mean, that was when I was in
spreading like wildfire.
Junior high and high school. That's what the mix was. Anyway, so yeah, you would have that, but not like. All to say, I didn't grow up. It wasn't my parents necessarily. Like, I don't think any of us, unless you had a parent who was obsessed or something. Right. But I don't think any of us really grew up with any of that. And you also didn't grow up looking at yourself unless you had a mirror in your face in your room all the time. You didn't have the internet looking at yourself. Nobody had a camera in their pocket on the phone.
So is that the difference? Is it an era difference? Because there are women your age. Because there are women your age, right, who didn't dig the cleavage wrinkle.
You're right. It doesn't cover the whole thing, but I think it's part of it.
Got it.
I think it's part of it. I think it's harder to have that kind of attitude if you grew up just surrounded with, like little kids now. I mean, I don't know. Do they see any older faces ever? I don't know.
I mean, my kids tell me I'm one of the only people they know who doesn't dye my hair, like in terms of adults they know.
Well, why would you?
Well, because I have gray and many people. Okay, but so this is the thing, though. It's kind of like when people say, like, well, you don't need to shave. Your leg hair is not that, like it's not about that. It's about a concept of why you choose not to. But no, I mean, I can't tell you how many times people have said, like, we're going to put highlights in. We're going to put lowlights in. We just need to create a little depth. It'll just brighten your face. It'll frame your face and we'll cover up all the grays. But this is the culture, though, right? This is our culture now.
It's true. I don't know what it is. I guess I just, like when I was acting and I would hear that, I got that note once on a pilot I was doing. We want to put highlights in your hair, and I just took that as why are you giving this note? I mean, no, really, like what? That's a solution that's going to solve what problem? Like, tell us what your problem is, and then because otherwise, I knew from doing enough acting jobs, like if I do that, you may still have your problem because you're coming up with a solution. Anyway, I always see it as something like that.
That's a really interesting point because, as one goes through face, as you do, as you mentioned, there was a series of conversations you had, and then these are, I mean, they're short stories.
Very short.
They're very short. So they're moments, if you will.
Potato chips.
They're healthy moments. And each one is a different kind of flavor of either someone else's gaze, someone else's judgment, someone else's trying to fix, or a woman examining, the basis for that, right?
Right. It looks at like like for any one person, they could ask themselves, like, wow, where did I get the idea that my face is broken? Or that if it's a man or another woman, that other people's faces are broken and have to be fixed. Where did I even, born with that? Where did it even, where was even that seed? And like, I'll give you an example. And I'm not advocating get rid of books. I'm not like that, but I'm just saying it's good to, and the story I'm going to say is there's one about a young mother who takes her twins to story time, and they have there's usually a younger woman that's reading these stories as fairy tales, and then one day there's an older woman doing it, sitting in doing the reading, and her kid starts, lip trembling and all this, and then points at this older woman who's reading and says, "The witch." And all the rest of the kids start crying too. And then the mother's mortified, and she realizes in a flash that she thought she was like enriching her kids by taking them to this cultural thing every week. But oh my God, what she's done is planted in her kids. It's not her fault. It's just almost all the villains in fairy tales are old women.
Yeah.
So for someone, and again, I'm not advocating get rid of the fairy tales, nothing like that. But when one can understand that, oh, that is where I picked it up, then it kind of blows it open, and you can say, oh, well, that's silly, But until I've found until I can open where I picked something up, or kind of what my irrational fear is, or whatever, until I open that by saying it out loud or writing it out, I can't get rid of it with my rationale.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by BetterHelp.
We've all had times in life where we know what we should do. We know what's good for us, but sometimes our brains just get in the way. I find that my brain gets very noisy when I'm trying to fall asleep. It keeps me awake with racing, unhelpful thoughts. Therapy is one of the things that I have taken on in my life and committed to forever, so that my brain can get quieter, so that I can really tune into what I want and what I need to do. If you're thinking of starting therapy, why not give BetterHelp a try? It's online, and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch at any time for no additional charge. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/break today. They'll give you 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/break.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Squarespace.
Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. Stand out with a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything: your products, content you create, even your time. Squarespace makes it so easy for creators and educators to monetize their content and expertise in a way that fits their brand. There's these member areas where you can unlock a new revenue stream for your business and free up time in your schedule by selling access to gated content like classes, online courses, or newsletters. Stand out in any inbox with Squarespace email campaigns. Collect email subscribers and convert them into loyal customers. Start with an email template and customize it by applying your brand ingredients like site colors and logo. Built-in analytics measure the impact of every send. Support your cause by gathering contributions with PayPal, Apple Pay, Stripe, and Venmo. You can gain powerful insights into who's visiting your site and how they're interacting with your content with an in-depth website analytics tool, including page views, traffic sources, time on site, most read content, audience geography, and more. Squarespace has powerful blogging tools to share stories, photos, videos, and updates. Categorize, share, and schedule your posts to make your content work for you. Display posts from your social profiles on your website. Automatically push website content to your favorite social media channels so your followers can share it too. It does everything.
Go to squarespace.com/breakdown for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use our offer code BREAKDOWN to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
So the stories are like, where did your thing come from? Maybe it's that. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's because you were rejected by a younger guy, and then you started looking at yourself differently. Whatever it is, maybe or like you said, some of it is just like looking at women, like, where are they? Where are they at? Like an older woman who's interviewing for a job keeps putting herself down, keeps saying, I know I look old. I know I look old. And then the woman who's interviewing her having to say, why do you keep doing that? Like, I'm ready to hire you, but you keep insisting that, and when she leaves, like she's not entirely sure she's gonna, she gets the job, she's not entirely sure she's even gonna stay because she can't she's using it as a way to get in her own way.
Mhm.
She's using it as a she's trying to make sure things don't happen in her life.
Well,
and
and I
some
think,
women use it like that.
well, and I was just going to say, I see, that age really is weaponized. I mean, it especially against women, and as you kind of point out, specifically against women, it's that sort of threat, that there will come a point when your face will betray you, right? Your existence then kind of comes into question in this way.
But that's the thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I'm just interjecting because I want you to finish that line of thought, because who's doing that to
Right.
you? Because a lot of times when I've done the interviews and stuff on this book, and they go, well, journalists say, well, there's a lot of pressure on women. And I say, well, what exactly? Oh, well, cosmetic companies. I go, well, in what way?
Right.
Well, the ads, and then they say that you need to change and stuff. And I go, well, it's an ad. They're doing their job of marketing, and they're pricking at maybe one of your fears that they can be the solution to. I said, and always I'm getting at, there is nobody standing over you, threatening your life, telling you got to feel like shit about your face or else. So that's when the inner work.
That's what I was gonna. So that was my next
one
question.
has to write out for themselves.
Correct.
And I don't mean this rhetorically.
Yeah.
But truly write out the answer. Why am I holding on to this idea? How is it serving me?
I'm going to give you the most basic answer that I think a lot of women would say, and men as well, because men are also
sure, especially in the gay community.
Correct.
And I also, based on my interviews, I'm not just
we're just going to speak about the gay community because we're the authorities.
A lot of the guys that I spoke to are like, it's really heavy.
And I want to be really careful because, and I think, you of all people understand the value of this. Like this is a conversation that in many cases is about women, and that's okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, it's okay because you wrote the book. But I just need to say a disclaimer that there are spaces, kind of like when we talk about eating disorders, when we talk about sexual assault, there are places for all of those conversations.
Yeah,
but
sure.
this conversation, I'm going to keep it. Yeah,
let's do it.
Great. Okay,
I'm into that.
So. I'm 10 years younger than you.
Okay.
And also, for part of my adult acting life, I was like the oldest person on my set. At the Big Bang Theory, it was like me, Jim Parsons, and Johnny Galecki were like the oldest, and everybody else was like, they felt like kids. So what I know, and just from working with, in particular, a lot of young actresses, like you are encouraged to start earlier and earlier with work on your face. So I know, so that it's less drastic, it's less significant. And what I hear women in their 20s say is like, if you start young, quote, no one will notice, meaning you'll just perpetually stay in some version of, youth that you want to hold on to. I've never had work done. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I tweeze the bottom edge of my eyebrows, which there's actually a story that I wanted to talk to you about because while it's not plastic surgery, it rocked my brain and has really messed up everything about me, I think, in terms of how I view my face. Anyway, you'll fix that in a second. But what a lot of women say is that they feel better when they look a certain way. And the way that they get to that place is with filler. And I don't know, I've never had it. So, so what I say, and I think you say it much better, but I'll give you my amateur feminist perspective. I have this thought, and I've had this since I was like 14 years old when I refused to shave, and everyone thought I was nuts. And maybe I was, but besides the point. I think that we have been conditioned to have a picture of what we think looking good is. And that would include never aging, never changing. And that the notion of like, well, I feel better, like my expression of feminism is, right? And to me, like I believe in choice feminism. I understand academically what it is. But to me, you only think you look better when you alter yourself because of like what we've been told is the only way to look. Am I close? Like you've got a fancier degree in this department.
This is, well, I have a computer science degree, so I don't know.
But you do but you are a person though who knows more about like
but I have explored
media
I have
and
explored
fame
this.
and like this is like you are in
that. Okay, one thing that really stood out that you just said
Yes.
was if I start
I feel like I'm with like Dr. Bateman here. She's gonna fix everything.
That you said, but not about you particularly,
Yeah.
like that to talk about here, is you said that when these women start this work younger, it's less noticeable. I forget what you said exactly.
Yeah, like if you'd start,
it'd be less noticeable as you're going.
Right.
You know what's gonna be less noticeable?
What?
Them.
Oh.
Them themselves.
Say more.
When you start conforming to some really narrow idea, and this is very narrow. I mean, the more surgery you do, the more you look like this. I could say Kardashian. I could say, I mean, it's not.
Well, there's levels, but you know.
But there's this look. There's this particular hair color. There's this particular look on the face. There's this particular size and firmness of the breasts. I mean, it's like everybody's going to the same doctor, but they're probably not. But there's this look. So let's go back to herd mentality, or not herd mentality, but like tribal level, right?
Yeah.
You want to be included in the tribe.
Yeah.
Because you're not included in the tribe. You're not
vulnerable.
You're vulnerable to danger, physical danger. You're not going to get a cut of the meat, kill that comes in.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to be protected, blah, blah. So I think that's what drives, basically what we're talking about with the face. I know I'm jumping a little bit here. We're talking about people pleasing.
Yeah.
We're talking about inclusion in the tribe. We're talking about the irrational fear that you are not going to be included. You're not going to have a cut of the hunt.
You won't get the guy, whatever it is.
You're not going to. You're not going to have but on a really core level, because your system. I don't have to tell you. You know, your whole system's main focus is to keep you alive.
Correct.
That's
survival.
That's it.
Yep.
Now, part of that is,
and that doesn't change just because we're in 2020, whatever.
No.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to change that.
Right.
That's what keeps us alive.
We're just
mostly.
Homo sapiens.
I mean, all the ones that didn't abide by that are dead.
Right.
I mean, that didn't procreate, right? Years ago. They didn't have
barely here, but yes.
But you know what I mean? They didn't have a lineage after them because they probably threw themselves with no fear off a cliff before they were able to have a baby or something, right? So we are products of people who were, you know, cautious enough to have survived, right?
Right.
Okay, so people pleasing, getting along, making sure you're part of the herd, not an outlier. We've seen enough nature videos to see what happens to the outliers, right? They're picked off, and that's the predators get them. So I think part of wanting to conform, it's you know, we learned this. We don't learn it so much when we're real little. Well, we sure learn it in junior high school. You know what I mean? This conformity, got to wear, you know, girls in tears, like, I need to wear that brand jeans. If I don't, I'm out. So
that's what I told my parents.
Me too. So like Dittas and Lovitz and chemin de fer, and I can't not wear, you know.
Can someone stop being a public teacher in this house? That's what I would scream to my parents.
Anyway, all to say, a lot of it is fear of expressing yourself, being yourself,
being different.
Fear that is, and being different nowadays is just being you, just normal you, without doing any of that stuff. Like, and I get it because a terror comes up in people sometimes to varying degrees of like, oh, now I'm going to be this irrational fear. Now I'm going to be an outlier. Now I'm going to be left out of the, and I tell you, so much of my life, or so many times in my life, I've gotten to those points. Oh no, if I say this or wear what I really want to wear or do what I really want to do and everything, I will be excluded. I will be excluded. I will be excluded. And I got to tell you, it just doesn't fucking work that way. It doesn't work that way. And when you try it, like my film Violet is about, you know, the negative thoughts in your head. I call it the voice in the film. And that film is about, kind of gives the map to the bridge between, you know, over the chasm between a life that's based in fear-based decisions and a life that's based in instinct-based decisions. And a lot of those fear-based decisions I have found are because of, oh no, I'll be left out. I won't be included. I won't be part of. I'll be, I mean, me, basically everything I do, I'm out. I am not doing what you're supposed to be doing. I'm not doing what most people are supposed to be doing. And it's working out fine. I'm not dead. I'm not excluded.
Okay,
I'm
but-
still being provided for. I'm still,
Right.
I can still go down to the grocery store and get food. You know what I
Right.
mean? But if you deal with that irrational fear of
Got
like,
it.
I won't be provided for and I won't be protected and then I'll die, because your system's trying to protect you from dying. So for some people, not getting the plastic surgery, their system is irrationally connecting that with death. You see what I mean?
Yeah. That's how deep that fear is.
That's how deep not being included, that goes, I'm like the basic core function of our system. I think if one is able to accept that that's what's going on and to see that, okay, well, that might have been true in tribal times, and I know that's still in my system as a human being, but rationally, I do have a roof over my head and I can go down to the grocery store and get something to eat. For most people, this is absolutely the truth. So I'm not going to die if I don't get plastic. You know, if you deal with what the irrational fear is at the root of it, then you're like, oh, I can have my face look however I want, and none of that's ever going to happen to
Well,
me.
and that's what I also wanted to clarify, because you're not just speaking for you, Justine Bateman, because I think a lot of people might be like, well, that's not a great example. Like, you were famous and you're skinny and you're like, whatever people are going to fill in. You're talking about for humans in general. This is not just like, I'm okay. It's like.
No, I believe that what I just said, like you get to the core irrational fear of what's driving you. You know what it feels like when you are going off track. You're like, oh, it was totally not myself.
Right now.
You say I wasn't myself at dinner, or why did I say that, or why did I eat all that food, or why did I?
Yes,
you know, all of that. I find what I do that I've found to be 100% effective is you write out what was going on right there. What if you had stayed on your path? What if you had done the thing you wanted to do in that moment? What would have happened? What ceiling would have fallen in? And not asking rhetorically, like, don't be ridiculous. You can be yourself and nothing's going to happen to you. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying really give those irrational fears their time. Write it out. Say it out loud. And I find that in doing that, you expose it to the atmosphere and it starts to erode somehow. It's like, I swear to God, it's like magic.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by AG1.
I love AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it every day. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted better gut health and more energy, and I wanted a supplement that actually tastes good. I drink it in the morning before starting my day, and AG1 makes me feel like I'm doing something good for my body right off the bat. AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that delivers comprehensive nutrients for whole body health. It replaces your multivitamin, probiotic, and more in one simple drinkable habit. AG1 has a science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source nutrients. It's raising the standard for quality in the supplement category and helps you build your health foundation first. AG1 was created in 2010 and has helped millions of mornings begin on a healthier foundation ever since. It's not only a high-quality all-in-one solution for daily foundational nutrition, it also saves you time, confusion, and money. Each serving costs less than $3 a day and gives you powerful long-term results. If you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase.
Go to drinkag1.com/breakdown. That's drinkag1.com/breakdown. Check it out.
Can you tell me about your mom and your dad? Specifically, I want to know about their faces. Like, did they age gracefully?
Well, my mother was a flight attendant. We traveled a lot. So when I would go to Malta to see relatives or, be anywhere, Italy, whatever, we got to travel a lot, Japan, whatever. Lots of older faces. In fact, when I was a kid, lots of older faces when I was a kid too in America.
Right.
But traveling, it's just maybe because in other cultures you see more older people.
Right.
They're
it's
not
true. They
they're
don't hide
not
them.
shut up in the back room at in American houses. But I don't really have it. have an answer to your first question, but
well, because maybe you can talk more generally, because you do talk about the difference between men aging and women aging. And I guess that's what I was curious about too. So maybe you can speak to it. Can you speak to that a little bit in terms of it? You know, it's like we all say it, right? Like, oh, men, when they get gray, they get distinguished, and women dye their hair. Or men can have a dad bod, and it's like kind of a thing. But women, if you don't have a very specific body type, like you're outside the norm. Or when men get wrinkles, right? Or when they lose their hair, it's like, oh, it's distinguished. It's like, it's character. But for women, it's like a whole other conversation.
I've got a theory on that. So let's go back to the tribal example, right? So in the tribe, you've got the children, you've got the women who are fertile, you've got the older women, you've got the older men. Now, the children, whatever, they'll become something. So they're of value.
Right.
The men who are hunters and bringing everything, they're of value.
Right.
The women who are fertile. They're of value.
Everyone else, it's like wisdom. Thanks for your wisdom.
Maybe you have a tribe that respects that kind of wisdom, which unfortunately in America, we don't have this tribe.
No, I'm thinking of others.
Which is too bad. Yeah. But the older guy... in that on a tribal level, but especially in a capitalistic culture, which we have, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying because it's when a man the older a man because this is too bad that this pressure is so much on men, but to make it. You got to make a lot of money. You have to have a good. You have to have a title. You have to have something. You don't walk around and you say you're a plumber, which I think is really respectable. And frankly, after generative AI takes over everything, they're going to be one of the few people that actually still have a job.
People are going to be like, what?
Yeah, people who clean hotel. Really, everybody's going to be like, oh, can I have that job?
I saw Triangle of Sadness. I know what happens when that ship gets wrecked.
So, but in our culture, men establish themselves in business or making a lot of money, and as they get older, they're doing better at their business. They're making more money. They're seen as a provider. They're seen as somebody who's gonna why do we keep wanting men? And I'm just so you know about me, I'm not a tear down the patriarchy kind of person at all. I don't give a fuck about sexism. I mean, I'm just when somebody's sexist, I just go, oh man, you just show me your entire hand at the poker table. I know that you are so insecure that my mere presence is just, and if I'm ever negotiating against this person for something, you just showed me everything. You just showed me your underbelly. So that's just me personally.
So you do give a fuck, but you don't give a fuck in terms of I
don't
just want to clarify that.
I just know, no.
It's clear to you what's happening.
It's clear to me every time a guy is sexist, it just, he's just
Women
told
can
me.
be sexist too.
He's just told me how, yes, of course. Yeah. He's just told me how very insecure he is. And also if he's in my way professionally, I was thanks.
I like what you just did with your hands.
I go around. It's oh, it's clear you're unavailable because you're racked with, please see a therapist.
Right.
I'm going to go to the next person. So yeah, I'm not going to work with you because you have too much to work on still. Okay. There are certain roles that we want to have filled in our society, in our play, let's say, right? Certain characters, we want certain actors to play certain characters in our play of life.
Yeah.
Okay. Authoritative guy is one of them. Young new guy who has lots of promise. That's one of them. That's why
I know that guy.
I think that's why you see a lot of perhaps young male directors, perhaps. It's not so much now as it used to be, but perhaps more foster because he's filling that role.
Yeah.
Young ingenue, she's filling that role.
Yes.
And I don't mean to put this in movie terms, but the mother type who's going to give you, or grandmother type or whatever, who's going to give you comfort. What do you need in your life and who's going to play those parts? Authoritative woman who knows what she's doing.
They don't like us.
It's not. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you look at the list of characters in the play? That role doesn't really exist in our culture. So when somebody's being that way, I think it's
jarring.
confusing to people. it's confusing to people because it doesn't fit in these sort of prescribed societal
Archetypes, right.
roles that they feel like, oh no, to get that kind of thing, I've got to have an older guy fill that part. And so back to your question about, is it, why do they make it okay for guys to age?
Mhm.
Because the older a guy looks, up to a certain point, he can't be decrepit, right? Enhances their value
Right.
in that role, because it suggests they have even more wisdom and guidance and protection of you and money for you, et cetera, which is
And-
irrational.
Okay, but I'm going to add on top of that.
Okay.
And this I don't know how old this trope is, but I also know that men of that age and position are also lauded for having young mistresses or young wives, meaning
Mhm.
the fertility, right? The virility, it somehow then becomes part of their worth, right? Like, ooh, I hate to use the language that people, but like, he got her, right? Or he could still get that.
Okay.
So talk about that.
What you're saying right there, that's it.
Yeah.
What are it is further, it's more evidence
Mm-hmm.
that he's the guy.
Right.
That he's the guy that can play that part. Not because he's a younger woman so much, but he can get the money.
Right.
He can get these women who could have anything.
Right.
He can get what you need to.
Mm.
So it's more evidence that...
You know what I can get? An ultrasound for ovarian cysts. Because when I think about the things that, and I'm one of those, like, I was a very early menopauser, just an overachiever. And so, there's been a lot of thought, that I've been given to this.
Why is it menopause instead of mena-end?
How about womenopause?
But why is it, you're not pausing anything, it's done. And you know what I mean? It's not a pause button, it's a...
We can call it the
stop
end
button
of my life.
Okay, sorry.
No, but when I think about, there was I've been acting since I was, I started acting professionally when I was 11, right? And then, I never looked like leading girl. I started acting in the late 80s. You can do the math. Like, All-American was still a thing, and I did not look All-American. I still don't. I've been waiting for it to come around. But, there's this notion of, like, you're at an age where, like, am I going to be the ingenue? And then I left the industry, and we're both Bruins, and I was at UCLA for 12 years. And
12. I was only there for 4. That's amazing.
I did my undergrad and then my doctorate. It was a long haul.
Yes.
And when people ask, like, why, one of the most common things that people ask me, why did you leave acting? And it's like, now I can be like, because of this. Like, I need to hold up both of your books and be like, this is why. Because I had had the experience of literally being of value for what I provide.
Mm.
And even though I wasn't that, like, leading girl or leading teen, I was holding a show, right, that was named after me. Like, I had a whole life of what can I give you? What do I look like? And what value is that? And I had 12 years of wearing pajamas to school every day. I dyed my hair whatever color I always wanted to. I pierced my eyebrow because, like, I always wanted to, like, back then piercings were a thing. And I lived, off of the grid of observation that way.
Uh-huh.
And when I think about what life was like in the late 90s, and, of course there were girls who, were starting to get work done. Of course people, were, but false lashes weren't a thing. So, like, that wasn't an issue. But, the reason that some of us remove ourselves, it's all of this. And I'm, like, so grateful that you can articulate it so well, because it's very satisfying, it's very satisfying personally, but I think for a lot of people listening, to hear it spoken about in a way that doesn't feel defensive, and it doesn't feel like an attack on a system. It feels very, I don't want to say, like, I think you're right.
Well, here's
like you're right.
my goal in my life is to get...
What's your goal in your life? Justine
I'll
Bateman?
tell you, my overall goal is to be... I want to eliminate all of my buttons, all of them. So I can be in any situation whatsoever. Someone can say anything to me, come at me in any way. And it's just like, wah, 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 wah. It's like the parents
How
and the...
close are you? Are we like, are we there?
I'm
You
super
have children?
close. Yeah, I have two teenagers.
Because they give you more buttons.
Oh, well, that... I don't even want to. That is,
Okay.
yeah, additional.
Do you have male humans or female humans?
I have a boy and a girl.
Okay. Oh, you get both lessons.
But every time I know what it feels like to be me. Like I know what my track feels like. To be on track, I know what that feels like. So anytime I feel like I'm going off track,
yeah.
Like,
what does it feel like? Like, where do you feel it?
Anybody could. Okay, like let's give you an example. Like, you went out to you put on a pair of pants, and you walked out and you knew as soon as you put them on, you didn't want to wear them.
I tried on pants today and I felt this.
Didn't want to wear them, but you kept them on and you wore them all day.
Yeah.
And your day was like all day. It's kind of in the back of your head.
Yeah.
Right. And then you got to come home and you're like, okay, all day you were off track.
You just want to take your pants off.
All day you were off track.
Right.
So I find it's good to ask myself then, why did I not change them? There's some reason. It's not a rhetorical question. Like I really want to get at
I know women who wear 3 pairs of
why.
Spanx, like to go to an event.
Okay.
That's not comfortable. They're not comfortable.
All right, let me give a different example.
But I'm agreeing with you.
But I'm not even talking about...
I can't eat 4 days before a red carpet.
No, I don't mean like that. I mean just like you just wore a sweater.
Okay, got it.
That you don't really like.
You're thinking smaller.
But you wore it anyway.
Right.
Or someone invited you to go someplace.
And you said yes when you wanted to say no.
You don't know that yet.
Ah.
All you know is you're there, you hate being there, you resent your friend, and you're off track, and the next day...
It's my whole life.
But the next day then to ask yourself, let's back it up. Mm-hmm. I felt myself until the moment I said yes.
Right.
Why did I say yes?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some reason. What were you afraid of?
I was going to say.
If you let's picture yourself doing the opposite, which is like Violet does a lot of that. Picture yourself doing the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
If you did the opposite, what do you imagine would have happened? That's the fear you were trying to make sure didn't happen. It's like, oh well, I'm sure they would reject me and never invite me again. All right. Now.
So those people get mad.
Well, right now, at that juncture, that's an irrational fear. It's not a proven fear.
Right. Right.
So
it's false evidence
sometimes
real.
You have got to go ahead and say no next time.
Mm-hmm.
And then wait and see if what you thought was going to happen happens.
But what you just described, that's the place where I think most of us are not given, we don't know those tools for how to manage what that feels like.
That's it, just gave it to you.
Right.
In fact, in the book Fame, but no, one has to do the work. In the book Fame, I do go into more detail as to how I process, so the whole face thing. I go into how I process that and what my root fear was. It was nothing to do with the skin on my face.
Right.
It was everything to do with so everybody can finish this sentence. I'm afraid if people think I look old, then therefore you think something's going to happen. That's got nothing to do with your face. I won't get a maid. I'll lose my job. I won't get a job. People won't listen to me.
Right.
Whatever it is. That fear there, that completion of that sentence existed in that person before their face started changing.
Slow that down. If you have this fear, if your fear about what would happen if, right, you are perceived as old. If your fear is that you will lose status, you will not have the things you want, the people you want, the opportunities that you want, that fear already existed.
Mm-hmm.
And
you had that fear at 18.
Right. Or possibly younger.
Younger. You had that fear. So, and all those that you just said is basically a fear of not being provided for. You're not going to be taken care of.
I think you're a therapist.
It's very helpful if somebody's going to do this work, and I guarantee anybody who wants to try this, I guarantee you, absolutely 100%, you are going to get free of these things. I'm telling you.
And think of all the money you will save to not put so much into
There's something about just writing out or saying out loud those irrational fears. It somehow can't live in the same state after that. It just starts eroding. And when you're doing that, it's really helpful to. So let's say you're going to do the opposite. You're like, okay, I'm not going going to be afraid that none of these things are going to happen for me. I'm going to trust that things are going to work out. And frankly, as we get older, we should be even more trusting because we have more evidence, more things to point to. Say, oh, I thought that was going to be a disaster, but it worked out fine. It's really helpful to have some sort of spiritual something. Whether you're going to, it can be God for you or the universe or the fucking sun, whatever. To just go, I'm going to be taken care of. It's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I don't have to be living in this fear that these things aren't going to happen for me ever. Or just trusting that things work out. Things work out. Just look at some parts of your life moments in your life where you thought that was going to be a disaster. And maybe it was a disaster, but then something came out instead.
Sure.
Or that disaster you thought would happen never happened at all. And you spent 3 months prior to that, just like giving yourself an ulcer.
I do want to bring up that like there absolutely is this for many people who choose to be part of certain aspects of the industry. And I don't think it's just actors. There is a reality to this. I mean, like it is suggested that we get work done. It's become, in many cases, I don't want to say enforced, but like that is the industry now. And, when I was asked if I've ever tweezed my eyebrows, I was like, what? No. And, just taking off that one little row, because I do have naturally very specifically shaped eyebrows. So that's all me. But just taking off like that one row, it was like, I remember the makeup person said, look how that opened up your face. And I was like,
people just say things.
No, but the truth is, and I'm speaking visually and aesthetically.
More diarrhea comes out of people's mouths and out their asses.
But I also the truth is that when there is less shading around your eyes, you see more of your eyes, right? The truth is, for those of us who have, upper lids that are hooding, they can impede your vision and they absolutely cover your eyes, right? So that's a thing for people who are on television.
I'm sorry to laugh.
What?
Because I know that's the way people get insurance companies to pay for the
No. But what I'm saying is like
but my eyes are hooded. It doesn't get into my vision.
You're not
all.
choosing to be on camera. So for me,
I'm on camera quite a bit.
No. But what I'm saying is, in high definition sitcom land, right?
Yeah.
Like we had a situation, and it only happened in this last iteration of my life. I was in a sitcom for 3 years, from the ages of do the math, whatever, 44 to 46, and we until we figured out there was a persistent shadow because I had skin in places that I had never had skin. And of course, my solution was not, I'm going to get eye surgery, but I absolutely Googled it because it kept being a thing of like the lighting person and the makeup person and what's this shadow? And, is it like, what's going on? And also I wear glasses. So that's a whole thing. And so, I was curious, right? I mean, like I didn't do it and don't plan to, but I wonder what, do you think just like, if you have to get plastic surgery to conform in any way, that's not your industry? Like, would that be, I mean, that's one way to look at it.
As a filmmaker, it's not my industry.
Right.
I mean, unless I'm casting a role that is someone who's had plastic surgery.
Right.
I can't even use people who've had work. It's just, it's not the direction of the work I'm doing as a director. I want the audience to feel more emotionally engaged in it. And I think when you start doing uncanny valley to your face, it makes them, whether they're conscious of it or not, it makes them pull away a little bit. And then with all these TikTok filters and filters on film, I mean, people don't know too. Like, I mean, they're used to Photoshop now, but they don't understand that these filters are used on video too.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, such an actress is like 65 years old and she looks amazing. It's like, well, I mean, it's video Photoshop through the whole film. Yeah, she's not playing somebody 20 years younger than her, but she wants to look 5 years younger than she is, or whatever it is. I don't have any use for that as a director. I don't want, because I think that makes people, I want them to be more engaged in the film emotionally, not pull back. And we unconsciously will, and then we're going to have all this generative AI.
Yeah, I wonder
You know,
if we could shift a little bit
Yeah.
to a little
And
bit about AI.
people are kind of, as viewers, we've kind of grown accustomed to non-real faces. And so when
Can you say more about that?
So sure, non-real faces are plastic surgery,
Mm-hmm.
the filters. Well, first we had, with the Photoshop, and then on stills, and then the filters. I don't know if you've seen like the latest TikTok filters. Oh wow, there's one that'll make you look 20 years, 30 years younger.
Oh yeah, it makes me look like my older son. It freaks us both out.
Or the ones that will like quote beautify you.
Yeah, that freaked me out too.
Okay,
I'm a very handsome man though. I like
but
that
you
filter.
you can have an entire phone or video conversation with have your hand on your face and move it. There's nothing, it doesn't jump off your face when you're moving your hand over it. So just to show people, like, you don't even know if you're talking to somebody who's got one of these filters on. So people have grown accustomed to, and then in film, like I said, people have grown accustomed to all the CGI, all the touching up on people's faces and all this. And
I'm watching Yellowstone. Kevin Costner looks amazing. I think that's just because he's an angel.
Maybe. And maybe they do a little something on his face. I don't know. I don't know. So now we're getting into generative AI, and you're going to have the audiences that's just one click away. People say, audiences aren't going to accept that kind of thing. It's like, maybe if you take an audience from the 1970s and you ask them to look at this stuff, they're going to reject it. But not this. I don't think this audience I think this audience, it'll just seem like one step further. That's all.
Right.
Not 8 steps further, 1 step further.
Right. My most disturbing, cynical thought, and it's horrible, and it's, I blame the culture, that has seeped its way into my DNA, I think. Like, I keep thinking like, oh, but if you had my neck, you wouldn't feel that way. Like, it makes me sad to say it. Like, when I first heard that people inject their neck so that they don't have lines, I was in my 30s, and it was from a much younger woman who had started getting it done, like much younger than me, like almost could have been my kid. And I had never thought about the lines in my neck ever. And from that day on, I can't, like, that's all I can see, right? Like, it has just, so I keep thinking like, well, if you had jowls that like hung down, Renaud, like if you had whatever, the age spots that I have, if you have these marks of like, they call them like straw marks, and like, I didn't even use a straw that much, right? Like, I keep wanting, and that's just me. It's not about you.
Because you don't want, because there's,
what is it?
If you don't mind my saying,
I want
because
you to
there
say
is
it.
some irrational fear you have that you are calming with these thoughts, and you don't want to not calm that irrational fear because you're afraid X will happen.
Right.
Because what you've done is the girl who got her neck, you made her right and you wrong. You didn't look at it and go, Jesus Christ, what are you doing? That's so dumb.
Right.
No, you said, oh, that's what one should do. I'm wrong. She's right.
Right.
For some reason. I don't know what the reason is. Every time I see a change on me, like looser skin, at my elbow or like under the arm, this.
Yeah.
I just go, that's what a cool arm looks like. As your arm doesn't look like that, I feel bad for you.
I didn't get those genes yet, but we'll
see, I feel bad for you. You don't have a cool arm yet. Or like I get in like the ropey neck or the loose skin on the neck. You just go, that's what a cool neck looks like. Or under the eyes or the hooded eyes or this that catches the light.
Right. Stop it.
That's what a cool face looks like.
Right. Do you feel that way about your whole body?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you feel that way about my whole body then too?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I also grew up watching like a lot of films from the 70s and stuff and a lot of, like a lot of unique faces.
Yes.
I mean, if I thought anything about my face when I was a kid, it's that like everybody thought I was pretty. I was like, fuck, what? That's useless.
Yeah.
I wanted to look like somebody out of a Fellini film. I wanted to be somebody, like you and your nose and everything. I mean, it's like, but it's awesome.
Right.
Remember the first pictures of Angelica Houston?
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like,
I mean, I was the Barbra Streisand
If only we could look
version.
like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, to me, I just,
yeah.
because also these women, see, there's something that people are, it's an unfortunate thing. If you have something that's unusual about you, about how you look, and it's outside, or the way you think, or what you want to do for a living, or whatever it is, you have an opportunity to get bold in that. And the And the more times that happens, the more bulletproof you become.
Hmm.
So and that's something that I really I didn't know it when I was a kid, but I really got from these women who looked really different. Or somebody like Diana Vreeland. Just go like, oh my God, she's so confident. I wanted to be confident like that. I wanted to be rad like that. I wanted to have totally individualistic style and all this sort of thing. I wanted that. And women who have that look unusual. That's what I found looking around, because they've had to be in a lot of situations where they got bolder because of it. They went beyond it. And that's the opportunity that I feel like a lot of women are missing.
I was going to say
missing, exiting out of, opting out of. They're opting out of these opportunities to become bulletproof. Like, I don't mean in a defensive way. I mean if you can get to a point like me, like, oh yeah, I've got this loose skin under my arms, or or my neck or something, and if I just go like, oh, that's what cool neck looks like, then it's like, the more times that happens, the less ammunition anybody's got on me at all. And also, when people are criticizing you, they're telling you about themselves. They're not telling you about you. They're saying, and sometimes it really makes people angry. Like, I imagine they're saying, like, when I look in the mirror, I see a bunch of loose skin on my neck and I hate it, and you like it? And there's this anger that comes up. Like, they're so, and I think it's just they're so frustrated that this is on their mind all the time and they can't get on the other side of it. And yeah, I'm here to say, there's a way to get on the other side of it. I didn't, you can read that whole chapter in Fame about how it just wrecked me that these people thought I looked like a crack addict,
It's really, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. And I don't know if you plan on writing another book, but I hope you do, because I can't wait to see what you tackle next.
The third book that I want to do, and I haven't been working on it because I've been writing op-eds about generative AI for the strikes. But I want to do it about going to school, because I kept a blog while I was at UCLA, and I just wanted to adapt that and talk about the old, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I think it's hard to get somebody's ego to let them walk into a room and be okay with not knowing what's going on.
Well, I hope you interview me for that book as well, because I have a lot to say about that. Great. The book is Face, 1 Square Foot of Skin. Justine Bateman, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. Do you want to direct people anywhere to read more of your stuff or learn more about you?
They can, I'm just Justine Bateman really all I'm talking about is generative AI now. So if you want to hear about that, basically if you go to JustineBateman.com,
great. There's
links to everything in there, the Instagram, the Twitter. And if you do go to there's nothing wrong with your face.com. I have all the press in there. So if they want to see me talking more about this in interviews or podcasts or something like that. Yeah.
And I'm making it my project to find what all of my buttons are so that no one can push them. It's fascinating.
Yeah, if you can get at the root fear that's at the bottom of that reason that you went off track, I found that's really effective.
Amazing. From our breakdown to the one we hope you never have. We'll see you next time.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. She's got a neuroscience PhD or two. One fiction, one and now she's gonna break down. It's a